Hello and welcome to Animal Rebellion's Police Liaison Training. My name's Rose and I'm the Police Liaison Coordinator. So today we'll be talking about the purpose of a police liaison, their accountabilities, practical advice, pre-action, during an action and post-action, police insignias and ongoing issues with the police. So what is a police liaison? Purpose of a police liaison is to maintain and build on Animal Rebellion's strategic, open dialogue with the police, to align with and maintain the culture of non-violence and in particular an attitude of non-antagonism and respect towards others, including towards the police, to create common ground, for example prioritizing public safety with security forces in general, transforming the them and us stance between activists and the state, generating instead a we mindset, to contribute to the planning of non-violent direct actions, ensuring Animal Rebellion's strategic relationship with the police is maintained and used to the best advantage in pursuing Animal Rebellion's aims. Accountabilities. Constantly remind the police of non-violent ethos of Animal Rebellion and the ways Animal Rebellion works with others, including rules of engagement during protests. Promote regulated, non-violent conduct on the part of the police and to avoid unnecessary injustice during protests. Remind police and security forces to observe their legal obligations and or the informal protocols Animal Rebellion establishes with their liaison teams. Help to formulate and maintain these practices and contribute to their application during action planning. To ensure an information flow about the ways non-violent disruption is being conducted and the ways it is being policed. Maintain a routine relationship with central and local police. Organise joint trainings or debriefings with police liaison teams. Train Animal Rebellion police liaisons within the UK who can train others in their local areas, thereby disseminating our ethos and best practice and aiming to provide enough liaisons in the role for actions. Maintain a mutual no surprises policy with the police and security forces so that Animal Rebellion's above ground mode of rebellion is reciprocated in any police response, to act as a conduit of a communication between activists and the police. Liaising with the police, practical advice. Police liaisons generally liaise with the police before, during and after an action. Liaising with the police is a key part of action planning. Always be clear with action planners about which bits of information you should be telling the police and any information you can attempt to get from them. For example, tactics police may potentially use. So, pre-action, there are normally three different strategies we use when liaising with the police. The first one is radical transparency. That's when we tell the police every detail of the action, with the exception of people's names, of course. So, for example, possibly a march could be a good example. Normally, for the safety of the public and activists, we'll be radically transparent with the police and give them all of the information, mainly for people's safety. There's no reason to keep anything hidden from them if it's just a march from A to B. Second strategy is facilitation. So tell the police enough information to keep an action safe. But then maybe hold back some elements of the action, possibly spicy elements. A good example of this is with ALA, the action beginning of 2020. So we told the police that there would be a march and then we would be blocking the street with food stalls and other activities. So we gave them all of that information, but we didn't tell them about spicy elements where people locked on in the middle of the road, blocked a road, and also locked on to the actual milk distribution facility. And then the third strategy would be no pre-liaison, so the action is entirely covert in advance, but we will have police liaison on the ground. So if it's a completely spicy action, might be a small group of people doing something, then yeah, for security reasons, we just won't tell the police because maybe the action will be stopped if any information was passed on to the police beforehand. But at every action, we make sure we do have a police liaison there just to liaise with the police to make communication smoother between rebels and the police. Dialogue is, doesn't, like, things don't get mixed up, or they just have one point of contact during an action, possibly two if it's a big action. A dialogue with the police can lead to informal protocols between them and Animal Rebellion, allowing us to do more than without police interference. So we're not asking for permission, we're informing the police. We are liaisons and not organisers. It's a protest and not an event. There is a big legal difference. The police can support our right to protest and do. Aim to always have a respectful relationship. Chat to the police as fellow humans. The police will want to know 3 key things so they can plan their resources: locations, times, and numbers. Respect their relationship with other authorities. They can communicate efficiently and effectively with the council, traffic management, universities, churches, emergency services, etc., and set the tone for Animal Rebellion's relationship with these other authorities. Remind the police of the rebel agreements. Give a hard copy if you have one, or you can email it to them. Aim to work together. Respect that the police may have useful information. We want them to be on our side, helping facilitate economic disruption. For example, they can redirect traffic for us. Give all the information that is available publicly and maybe more. So if there's a Facebook page, you might as well give them all the information on the Facebook page, as they will find that themselves anyway, because they will do their research before an event. This relieves tension and means the police can plan their use of resources effectively. It is very frustrating for them if there are unknowns, so if they have to employ the maximum number of officers just in case. Be aware that as the conduit for communication between rebels and police, you will glean information that others are not privy to. It's easy to feel powerful when you have more knowledge, so mitigate this. So what you may ask when liaising with the police pre-action. Before an action, if you are liaising with the police, you might call them, so it might be a telephone conversation, or it might be at an actual police station. Maybe take 5 minutes to write down questions or things that you might want to tell the police during that meeting. If you want to pause this video and just jot down a few ideas. Okay, so these are some of the questions or statements that you might want to tell the police before an action. So how can we work together to prioritise public safety? How can we make sure emergency service route plans are in place? What contingencies can we make for extreme circumstances, for example, terrorist incident at the same time as the protest? We want to work together to build trust and stick to our agreements. These are the plans. Can we draw up a code of conduct or general agreement in writing? We're not leaders, just conduits or liaison team. So it's important to make it clear that you don't have any power, or you can't tell rebels what to do during an action. You're just there as a point of communication. Who's the senior officer in charge, and how many police, or how will policing be structured? So on the day, it's good to know what the police plan to do. So how many police officers they're planning to deploy, or what their plan is, if you can find out that information. We want to assure you of our non-violent principles, so you can give them a paper copy of principles and values, or email that to them as well. If you need to make arrests, that's okay. You need to do your job. The rebels are prepared for that and won't resist arrest or obstruct you. Questions police may ask you pre-action. So before meeting with the police or speaking to them over the phone, it's good to have a think about the questions they might ask you and make sure you're prepared. So you might want to take a few minutes to think about how you would answer each of these questions. So if they ask you who's in charge or who makes the decisions, or if you're in charge, it's best to say there isn't one person that's in charge. We're autonomous, decentralized organisation, so there isn't one person that's in charge of an action. So decisions are made in groups. What safety measures have you got in place for this action? It's good to say that you're prepared and you have people trained in de-escalation, stewarding, well-being, to make sure everyone is safe, both members of the public and the rebels as well. How many people are coming? Obviously it depends on the action, but it's good to have a rough estimate of how many people are coming before an action. So you could check Facebook to see how many people are interested or have clicked going to an event. But yeah, it's good to give them a rough idea of what you think, but obviously it's difficult to give them exact numbers sometimes. Are you going to use vehicles, big structures, or a PA system? So obviously it depends on what you've decided to tell the police beforehand with the actions team, but yeah, just give them any information you can about any vehicles or structures, PA systems. Have you already got permission from the council? So often we don't have permission, but yeah, we just do actions. We're not asking for permission from anyone. But if you do have permission, then yeah, it's a good idea to tell the police. Will the protest move, or what's your planned route? So yeah, they want to know. Often want to know if it's static. So yeah, if you're just going to stay in one place, or if it's a procession or march. So technically, in the UK, we have to give notice if there is going to be a march. And yeah, it's a good idea to give them the route as well. So that just helps keep everyone safe, both rebels and the public. We're not going to let you do that. So if they say that to you, you can say that you're going to pass that information on to rebels. But yeah, we're not asking for permission. We're telling them that this is what's happening. And so it's likely that it will go ahead whether or not the police are going to support us or not. When are you going to clear up? So make sure you have some kind of plan for clearing up at the end of an action. Maybe have a designated group of people that will clear up afterwards. But generally, yeah, our actions are pretty clean. Most people tidy up after themselves anyway. But it's always good to make an announcement at the beginning of an action, asking people to keep the streets tidy and to clear up after themselves. But yeah, it's good to have people just to clear up at the end, just in case. So it's good to tell the police that you do have a plan for that. Then liaising with the police during an action. So during an action, it's good to look out for vulnerable groups that may be more of a risk of arrest. So if arrests will start, warn these groups first. Listen, reflect, and learn constantly. If a rogue unknown officer is questioning you uncomfortably, you can always refer to the line of communication you already have, especially if it's with a more senior officer, or you can say no comment. So yeah, whenever you don't feel comfortable, you're not sure what to say, you can say no comment. Be aware that as a conduit for communication between rebels and police, you will glean information that others are not party to. It's easy to feel powerful when you have more knowledge, so mitigate against this. Stay calm and repeat that you are a conduit. You do not have control of the rebels, but you can go and speak to them and ask if they can make a group decision based on the information you can pass on. It is your job to keep the situation calm and respectful, communicating on behalf of the rebels. Always be aware that a rebel or rebels may stray from the rebel agreement and the principles and values. Be prepared to calmly intervene to remind rebels of our code of conduct and seek support from de-escalators if available. Ensure site coordinators are informed of police information. Do not make coordinators known to the police. Avoid repeatedly going back to speak to the same person. Speak to large groups together. So yeah, obviously it's going to look really obvious if there are just a couple or a few coordinators that you keep going back and forth between them and the police. So yeah, instead try and create a little huddle of people, different people each time, so that it's not so obvious who the main coordinators are. And refer to protesters as they and them and not we. So you're kind of impartial, I guess, and yeah, especially when liaising beforehand and during, make sure you refer to rebels as they. So yeah, as if you're not properly like a part of the action. So you're supposed to be kind of between, just the communication point between rebels and the police. So you're not actively taking part in the action, technically. So police might say, so this is still during an action, police might say who's really in charge. Again, say there's no one person in charge, that decisions are made in groups, and yeah, there's not a specific person, and obviously you're not the person in charge either. What's the plan for today? So yeah, it's good to let the police know. They might have been briefed beforehand, they might not have, depending on the situation. So yeah, it's good to give them information that you can give to them that's been decided with the actions team. And obviously, if there's anything spicy, just hold back the information as well. If they ask you, or if they say we're going to start arresting people in 10 minutes at a certain location, just try and communicate that information to as many people as possible to begin with, and ask them to pass on the information, just so that everyone gets that message, everyone, especially those that don't want to be arrested. So obviously you can't force anyone to move from that location, but as long as you've passed on that information, people know that they're at risk of arrest if they don't move within those 10 minutes. So it's just your job to make sure everyone receives that message. We have observed these risks. If they say that they've observed certain risks, for example, children climbing on top of a phone box, or rebels standing in the road or something like that, you can try to deal with that situation yourself if you can, if you have the capacity. Ask the children or rebels to move, and explain the risks as well. Otherwise, you might want to get de-escalators or anyone else that's around to assist you with that. But de-escalators are normally good at communicating with members of the public and rebels, and de-escalating any heated situations. We have observed that this swarming is causing particular disruption. Could we reduce the blocks to 5 minutes? So if there is a road swarm, when rebels stand in like a line or a crowd, completely blocking a road, stopping cars from getting by. Obviously, drivers might get irate and irritated by the situation. So normally we do it for like certain amounts of time. So it might be like a 10-minute roadblock, then leave, and then back again, 10 minutes. Police might ask you to reduce the roadblock time. So all you can do is ask whoever is kind of leading that roadblock, or everyone, try and communicate to everybody in the roadblock, and then they can make a group decision based on that. And it's also good to keep time-stamped records of key decisions made by police throughout an action. So anything when arrests are made or when they threaten arrests, it's good to keep either on your phone, like some notes, or in a notebook, any decisions that are made throughout the day, just in case you need to refer back to them at any point. So if you can get information about the officer and time, that would be good. So liaising with the police post-action, normally there's not much communication after an action, but it's always really good to just be polite and thank them. If it has been a positive experience, it's good to say something like, "It's wonderful that we can build on this trusting relationship again. We were concerned that the protocols were not followed here and here. How can we assure that they are next time?" So if it hasn't gone so well, then still be polite and respectful, but see if there are ways that you can improve for next time. You could ask them how they learnt from the protest. Is there anything you were unhappy with? And when can we have our boat or bathtub or truck back? So keep it lighthearted. Police insignias and uniforms. So it can help if you can remember the different ranks of officers. So you can see the little insignias on their shoulders, shoulder of their uniforms. Most of the time you'll be in contact with police constables and sergeants, occasionally inspectors. If there are any key incidents or arrests, or you have like a main point of contact, it's good to note down either the letters and numbers on the shoulders. So, for example, DF638, or the name if you want to as well. They also have the name normally on their left, like on the chest, on the left side of their uniform as well. It's good to take note of those just in case you need to refer to them in the future. And the image on the left, the guy in the blue bib, he's a police liaison officer. So sometimes an action, especially if it's a smaller action, or something that they think isn't going to be very spicy, they'll just send a couple of police liaison officers to liaise with the police liaison, who is the guy on the right is the Extinction Rebellion police liaison for that action. If things do escalate, then the police liaison officers will often call for more support. And the second picture, the picture at the bottom on the right, special forces, like specialists, might be called upon if there are lock-ons or glue-ons. So they're trained in removing those protesters. So yeah, there you can see protester removal on their back. And ongoing issues with the police. So you may witness discriminatory practices carried out by the police. This could be because of someone's gender or their race. So it's good to look out for any discrimination and take note of that as well, and which police officer was involved. You may witness abuses of their power and bending of the law, and you may witness police brutality, and that can change or depend on where you are in the world as well. In such eventualities, try to ensure you have the evidence, for example, shoulder numbers of officers, photos, videos, notes made at the time of conversations to support any allegations you make. So finally, remember to remain calm, agree with the actions team what information should be communicated, and look out for others. So thank you so much for attending this section, this police liaison training, and I hope you find it informative. We have other trainings coming up and recorded online as well, and if you need any other information or would like to get involved, you can email actions@animalrebellion.org.